And you've all heard of Bitcoin, but there's actually this crazy ledger thing behind it, which again, I don't understand, but Kris does. It's called blockchain. And there is actually some interesting nonprofit use cases around this, which Kris is going to talk a little bit more about while I bring up his slides.
Thanks, Eli. One thing as we're loading it up, just something I was thinking about as a privacy advocate, mentioned in the last talk, was Google Analytics. If you're forgetting, Google is an advertising-based company, and with all of their value prop, they are selling your information. So if your nonprofit deals with sensitive information, you might want to think about your web analytics platform. For example, there's like PIWIK, P-I-W-I-K, and there's also Open Web Analytics. They offer the same functionality as Google Analytics, but it's not giving your users information to a foreign government or the American government. So for example, right now, marijuana is illegal at the federal level in the US, and border agents now are asking some Canadians if they don't like you, they'll say, have you ever smoked marijuana? If you say yes, you've broken a federal law and they can reject you. If you say no and they find anything on your social media or through analytics that you've lied, then they can reject you or ban you as well. With that, I'm going to take an ambitious step here, and in 10 minutes I'm going to try and explain Bitcoin, blockchain, and how to actually buy Bitcoin within 10 minutes. So I'm going to talk fast. You probably, again, if you want to take notes, get a pen and paper ready. Here we go. So what is blockchain, and why do people keep talking about it? If you're like me, that was like the hottest topic over the holidays. So here's kind of the trendy hot words. Again, I'll start with the big word slide, and then hopefully we get easier after that. But these are the unique properties of blockchain. So while you're looking at that, basically a blockchain is a double ledger. So if you're in accounting at all it is some address is sending some amount of money to another address. So wherever there's a minus $5, there's a plus $5 that matches it. So that's all a double ledger is. There's a whole bunch of cryptography around it that provides these extra characteristics around the double ledger. Some people call it a distributed ledger. If you want to be a technical purist, I would say it's a replicated ledger because everybody who uses Bitcoin will have a copy of this ledger on their computer. There's a consensus mechanism. So if I follow the blockchain and I fake that I sent Eli $100, all of the other blockchains are going to realize that I faked it. So there's consensus needed. Immutability is probably the coolest word, which means nothing on the blockchain since day one, like 7 or 8 years ago, can be deleted. So if you download the entire blockchain, you get every transaction that's ever existed since day zero, or the origin point. There's also transparency. There's a misnomer that Bitcoin is anonymous. It's one unique hash or address sending to another hash, but all of those transactions are on public record. So as soon as CRA, for example, or the IRS knows that Kris was this address, they can now see anything that money went in or out from that address. And there's a local startup here that just got VC level money called the Blockchain Intelligence Group, and they're working already with RCMP and Department of Homeland Security for telling these governments who owns each of the addresses. So don't think by using blockchain you're anonymous. There are various cryptocurrencies that are anonymous, but Bitcoin is not one of them. So accepting payments for Bitcoin, there's bitpay.com, which is like PayPal, and then there's the more popular one, Coinbase. There's been a whole bunch of things that have happened in the last couple of months. The increase has been so notable that it's no longer cost-effective or timely to use Bitcoin. There's a really high price point and a really long delay from using Bitcoin itself. There's a new technology called Lightning.network you can check out. It could change the game if it works, and in the next month or two, it's going to go live. But yeah, any of the top 5 currencies can work a lot faster and cheaper than Bitcoin right now. So here's where I'm going to take the ambitious jump into CoinMarketCap. So this is where most crypto people live. So this is where, if you want to learn more about cryptocurrency, this is where you start. Now I recommend, you can stay here, but I usually recommend clicking on this number in the top left, and you're going to notice a different screen once I click on it. And here we go. So these are all of there's currently 1,300 cryptocurrency tokens. These are by order of market cap. And so all you can do is go down this list and say, which one do I want to learn about today? So for example, I've heard a lot in the news this week about IOTA. So I don't know what IOTA is. I can click on IOTA here, and there's a whole bunch of useful links here. So one of them is to the actual website itself. So of course, if I really want to know about IOTA, I would click on the website and read about it and say, is this a cryptocurrency? It's like, oh, Of course, this is Flash-based, so it shouldn't be running by default, as I talked about earlier. But the important point is IOTA is actually for Internet of Things devices, so it's not going to be used as a traditional cryptocurrency. So some of these are cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin Cash, but some of them are more platforms, like Ethereum is a platform, for example. If you're interested on the privacy side, Monero is kind of the hot one from my perspective. That's actually anonymous and private. And with any good thing, you get bad, so this is also what the kind of bad people are using. But the important thing here, though, if I want to buy Bitcoin Cash right now, and I want to use it as a cryptocurrency, there's a Markets tab for every one of those. So when you click on the Markets tab, you can see here, these are the different exchanges where you can acquire Bitcoin Cash right now by volume in the last 24 hours. Now, the important part here is what's called trading pairs. So you can, on hit BTC, you can buy Bitcoin Cash for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's ticker is BTC. So if you don't yet have any cryptocurrency and Bitcoin Cash is the first one you want to go down the trading pairs and look for the first one that's US dollars. So Bitfinex is an exchange that trades Bitcoin Cash for US dollars. So what you would do is go to Bitfinex, create an account, and then you're going to go through the process which is called KYC. So KYC stands for Know Your Customer. So just to kind of bring you back, on CoinMarketCap, you can go into the Markets tab to find an exchange. Once you find an exchange, the long, painful part of cryptocurrency right now is called KYC. And what that is you have to give them your government-issued ID to prove that you're not, say, a money launderer or a terrorist. And so any transactions, especially over $10,000 in Canada or the US, goes to FinTrack or FinCEN, respectively. So before you can actually buy cryptocurrency on any of these exchanges, you're going to have to send them a picture of your passport, as well as likely a picture of you holding your passport and smiling. That process takes about 3 days. So if you're interested in buying cryptocurrency in a week or two, go and create an account on an exchange right now, because by the time you finish KYC, it's probably going to be about a week in. There is a local exchange called quadrigacx.com, and they trade Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin. So you can buy any of the 4 of those. But again, it takes about 3 days at least for KYC to complete. And then you want to hook up your bank account typically, which could take up to another 3 days for the money to make it into Quadriga. So once you kind of actually want to play in cryptocurrency, you're probably a week out. So just giving you the heads up now. So contrary to a lot of the news we've heard over the last 5 to 7 years, Bitcoin and blockchain are surprisingly secure. As somebody who has a background in information security, and any software, once it hits the internet, can be hacked. I am surprised as all heck, considering the amount of money going through blockchain, that Bitcoin and blockchain have not been hacked to this day. Anytime you've heard about it in the news, it's usually an exchange that's been hacked. So almost every exchange, actually every exchange before 2014 was either hacked or allegedly hacked. They are getting better now, but that's the weak point. So starting with Ethereum, it's kind of changed the game that instead of just transferring one amount of cryptocurrency to another amount of cryptocurrency, it's effectively a data block to another data block. And so all these, most of the community is like, wow, what could you put in a data block besides money? That's all we're used to. And so the hot topic right now is smart contracts. So smart contracts are going to start becoming big this year. One of the hot topics is REITs, or real estate, purchasing group real estate, where you can all kind of send your thing to a blockchain. Another hot one right now is what's called provenance, which is following your supply chain. So for example, I know there's a Vancouver startup working on cannabis, where they're saying when you buy your Jack Herrera plant, is it really from that plant, from that grower? And so using provenance of materials, when you buy your milk, for example, do you know which cow it came from on which farm? So provenance is going to be really hot in supply chain context. It also eliminates fraud, it eliminates middle people. The UN is using it. One of the use cases of the UN was they were losing a lot of money in their kind of giving because it was going through so many different hands. And by tying it to the blockchain, they eliminated over 90% of the fraud of the people kind of taking money out. So that's a great use case. And it's also now being used for identity on a blockchain, which is to prevent child trafficking. So there's some really exciting use cases in terms of smart contracts. And so what can your nonprofit do? So I mentioned at the beginning BitPay, which takes Bitcoin, but again, because it's really expensive and slow, and it's also growing so much, nobody really wants to give up their Bitcoin right now, if you have any. And in fact, it's like collect all of them if you can. And but start to get ready to accept other cryptocurrencies. So, like Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum. There are people like, I know in this community, there's dozens of people in Vancouver who are multi-millionaires just from cryptocurrency in the last 4 years. And so they're now like, hey, I can give back to the community. So if you want... Pardon?
Or buy a house.
Or buy a house. Yep, if you're excited about real estate in Vancouver. I mean, it's like every $1,000 you put in cryptocurrency in Bitcoin a year ago was $20,000 a year later. So, as much as the real estate prices are good here, it doesn't even come close. One of the things that's also going to be big this year in hot trends is, including here in British Columbia, is groundbreaking. There's a website called firstblock.capital. They've been approved by the BC security regulators to be put in what's called the regulatory sandbox. And what that means, though, is for the first time in North America, Bitcoin can now take institutional investment. So all of the rise we've seen over the past 7 years is from individuals, but starting this year, we're not going to be able to take business investment. So if your nonprofit happens to be sitting on money, some of them are, you can invest. I would say 1 to 5% is typically reasonable for an investment. You can also set up miners to this day. I probably wouldn't compete with the Bitcoin miners, but you can do it for a lot of other cryptocurrencies. So you can buy a fancy computer with 6 to 9 graphics cards that are generating Bitcoin Cash or this kind of thing. And there's another thing called masternodes, but we'll leave it at that. I guess that's it. If you have any questions, find me after.
I was listening to a Spark CBC podcast, and they were saying how one of the nonprofits had invited different people just to give their processing power to mine for charity. So they had some sort of system where they were able to distribute mining between just people who supported that nonprofit.
Yeah, that's cool. There is a thing, if you want to look up in the mining category, it's called mining pools. So somebody could, if you have a techie, they can set up a mining pool where anybody with free graphics processing time can be generating some cryptocurrency that can be given to your nonprofit.
Are we taking questions or not?
We're running low on time, so if you can join us at the post-event social, we can sort of go into that. Sorry about that. So thank you, Kris.
Thank you.
Especially for coming in and doing a double header today.